All right. So we'll get to know each other a little bit better, but I am so happy you're here, and I'm going to try not to over PowerPoint you. So before I put that on up, I do, because I promised it would not just be all TTTG, it would be much more interactive. But I do want us to sort of center ourselves because I think it's helpful and take really deep breath. And we're going to just sort of do a little grounding activity if it's okay. So if you're okay, and you can do this eyes open, eyes closed, and I am going to put a little bit of music in the background. So hopefully you can hear this and it's not too disruptive. Can everybody hear that? Nope. You can't hear that? Okay.
No.
How about now?
Mm-mm.
No? Okay. All right. So, Lyra, can you see if you can play on your end? And it's not that important. So, I'm going to say it's not that important. I am going to have us do sort of a guided meditation, a grounding activity. And again, I was going to use some music in the background, but let's not stress it. So, a few deep breaths and take a moment to sort of settle in your body. Maybe one more deep breath in through the nose, out through the mouth, making sure your exhale's a little bit deeper than your inhale. And just notice that for now, you don't have to change anything. You don't have to perform calmness. Just notice that you are here. Maybe one more breath. And if it feels comfortable, allow your shoulders to soften a little bit. Notice yourself. If you're pay attention to like your mouth and your face, and if your jaw is clenched, slowly unclench your jaw and maybe move your hands in and out and let your hands sort of rest. Take another breath. And then as you breathe, begin to notice what you've been carrying. Not just the task and responsibilities, but the tensions, the pressures, the overstimulation, the expectations. And notice where you feel it when you think about the weights that you carry and the things that accumulate quietly. Take a deep breath and notice where those things might be living in your body right now. Perhaps in your chest or on your shoulders or in your stomach, maybe in your neck or your racing thoughts. Try to have no judgment, but just awareness. Now imagine that your body is holding all of this like a cloth holds water. And gently and slowly begin to imagine wringing out some of what you've been carrying. not forcing it away, not denying it exists, just releasing what you've been carrying so that it no longer needs to be held so tightly. And with each breath, allow a little bit more space, a little bit more softening, a little less gripping, and ask yourself, what am I carrying that I don't need to carry into the next part of my day? What would it feel like to loosen my hold even slightly? And what do I need more of right now? Rest, connection, support, quiet, breath. Now take another breath and begin to reconnect with your surroundings. Notice the chair beneath you, the floor beneath your feet, the temperature of the room, any sounds in the environment. Maybe open your eyes slowly and notice a color that catches your attention. Allow your body to register that this moment is different than the moments that you had before it, that you are here now. And before returning, remind yourself that resilience isn't always about pushing harder. Sometimes resilience is pausing long enough to reconnect with yourself. Now take one more breath. And when you're ready, return. You might want to sort of move around and, yeah, shift your body, give it a little shake. So, throughout the day, yeah, I love the deep breaths. Want to continue to remind you that you can return to your breath and that you can always, through your breath, find it as a strategy to release what you've are carrying. So I am gonna pull up the PowerPoint and to talk a little bit, not for long, but about weathering. So there's a lot of talk, right, about self-care and chronic stress and secondary and vicarious trauma. And weathering could be seen as sort of the part of all of that. And I know that there's a black box, and I don't know where it is. I think it is a part of the closed captioning, so I apologize. Um, but when we exist, when we're kind of going through stress over time, and imagine that there's stress and adversity and um, picking up stories and caregiving and just every single day, the more you listen to news, you listen to your friends, you listen to the people that you serve and support, you support those people. There is, if you're not intentional about letting go, there is some wear and tear that just happens to our minds and our bodies and spirits that there's actually research. There was a researcher, Dr. Arlene Geronimos. She actually did some research and she found that there's a physical cost to carrying stories, dealing with the wear and tear of cumulative stress and adversity on our bodies. So it's not like trauma is sometimes a one and done. Weathering is not just a one and done. It's the cumulative effect of everything. And our bodies and our immune systems aren't meant and designed to be under stress all the time. And so you might find that you're more fatigued or you have difficulty concentrating or that you're having more aches and pains in your body or that there is your immune system actually gets more impacted, or that you might feel like you're always on, that you go to bed and there's a ticker tape of things that are constantly going. And our nervous system, when people are doing any talk about trauma, they're always thinking about the nervous system now. And a healthy nervous system can feel safe and regulated and adaptable, and it can go through a stressful day and kind of bounce back. You can sleep well, you can eat well, you can move well. But when that stress does not go away, it makes you feel more hypervigilant, more alert, makes it harder to think and heal. And your body, when it stays dysregulated, I was talking to someone last night and we were talking about the difference between feeling anxiety and dysregulation. So many folks will think like, I'm just an anxious person. And it is an anxiety, it's dysregulation. So dysregulation, the metaphor I use, and hopefully you guys can appreciate this, it's sort of like if you think about fibromyalgia being a disease where the pain signals are like going off all the time. So we think about fibromyalgia being dysregulation of pain. Dysregulation is sort of like uh, thinking about adrenaline, epinephrine, and stress hormones, and the nervous system being on guard all the time, sending signals all the time. And you think it's anxiety or depression or worry or stress. But again, it's the nervous system that's always on alert and to be thinking about it. And there are tools when we think about dysregulation that can bring the nervous system back into balance. And we're going to talk through some of them. But I want you to know that when your nervous system gets dysregulated, when you carry more than you can hold, when you listen more, when you kind of go through a meeting or sit with someone and it has an emotional impact and you don't let it go, it can look like exhaustion. It can look like irritability. It can make it difficult for you to concentrate. It can be tension in your body. You can feel disconnected and always over time. And over time, that chronic stress accumulates in your body. And without releasing it and having restorative practices, your body continues to carry forward what life is asking you to hold on to. And so let's take a second and we're going to talk about this in triads, but just reflect on what residue have you been carrying lately? And if you notice it, you can then name it. And actually being able to name it allows you to help release it. And you will get a chance to talk about this in small groups, but I want you, and we want you as a part of this, to be thinking about the coping patterns that you use some of which are really useful and helpful, but we want you to flag um, thoughts, relationships, actions, and patterns that might be traps. So that you might do that help you feel better in the moment, but become maladaptive. And you might be like, what are you talking about? So when we have residue that we don't release, we come up with survival strategies because again, our bodies and brains and spirits weren't made to stress all the time. And so we start to do things to help us function. So you have a worksheet in your workbook for everybody who has the workbook. And I want you to take a second and maybe think about thoughts, relationships, actions, and patterns that you might do that might work, kind of, sort of. They help you deal with stress, but aren't good for you or good to you. So some examples are um, having thoughts that you have to work, like that you have to serve other people in order to be useful, or that if you work harder and perform more or stay busy, that will help you kind of survive, and it's what you have to do because of service or commitment or whatever. Or other times you're like, I get a chance to stay in bed all day because I work so hard and I get a chance to numb out and not talk to family members or friends and put everybody on D&D you know, because I have so much stress. Or maybe I spend hours, none of you here, but on social media or doom scrolling, just numbing out to avoid my feelings. And I might even stay up and not get good sleep because I find myself numbing, numbing, numbing. And I can numb with food or relationships or sex or social media. Or I get a chance to have some self-entitlement. Maybe I'm snapping at people and being grumpy, and I tell people I'm mean or I'm grumpy or I'm irritable. And I get a chance to be mean and grumpy and irritable because I'm dealing with a lot of stress. And if you were dealing with the stress you were doing, so you kind of feel like you get yourself a pass to be grumpy. And I can't tell you how many people I work with and support who have challenges with like overeating or overspending, again, acquiring things or holding on to too much stuff. Perfectionism can be a sign that you are holding on to too much residue or isolating. So I gave you a few responses, but I'm going to be quiet for a second and I want you to take out your reflection page and think about what might be some of your traps, things that you do to cope with stress that absolutely make sense, at least when they were created, but are not necessarily always functional because maybe they take you away from connection or community. So, deep breath. It's we all have them. It's all okay. So we're going to break into triads or some version of triads. So I think that there'll be a dyad. And you're going to spend a few minutes, one, introducing each yourselves. And then I want you to think about one, what helps you feel safe and supported and grounded? Like, what are the things that you have or do that help you feel safe, supported, and grounded? What are some of the resiliency or resources that you have? And what are the things that help you feel connected and a sense of belonging? So, and again, small introduction and to just sort of reflect, and we'll put the questions in the chat too so that you can have them in the breakout room. And I want to just remind you of some agreement. So just try to be present and remember what is shared here stays here. Speak from your experience, listen with curiosity, honor each other's space and time, and take what you need and leave what you don't. So if we can, take a second and do some sharing, like what were some of the resources you had? What were some of the connections and support you have? What maybe is still needed? So can people share what it was like in your triad? And everybody doesn't have to go, but we'd love to hear from a couple people.
For our triad, if Claytina and Ellen are okay, with that, we talked first about our traps and
Oh,
overeating, overspending, avoidance theater, which is what we call it in our family, um, being caregivers and not not knowing what was out there for us. And then
yeah.
we moved into how we bring ourselves back to the present, whether it's nature, a lot of nature. We talked a lot about nature
Yeah.
and just, resources if you're a caregiver, using the breathing. We talked a lot about breathing and using the five senses and clenching our muscles and bringing awareness to where we're holding things. So,
Okay. So some grounding, some nature. Oh, perfect. So the workbook is, so there's both, yeah, so you have, sorry, Ellen, Robin, thank you for sharing, but Ellen, there is a workbook and then there's like a book for the session. So there's like two books that you have.
Well,
Yeah, I have both of them, and neither one looks like the one like the slides. And so
No, they don't. Yeah, they don't look like the slides. Yeah, and
okay.
I'll make sure you get the slides too.
Are we supposed to be following along in the workbooks or
Yeah, for the activities. So, and I'll tell you, like the traps activity was in the little booklet that you got.
okay? I just couldn't find it. So,
Okay. That
all
it's
right, I
like a
found the traps. It was just confusing. So I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to.
It's okay. No, no, no. And so you also you saw the meditation, the traps, the body
Yep.
scan. Okay, perfect.
Yep. Okay.
Yeah. Okay.
I'll fill it out. Thank you.
No, no problem. Anybody else want to share or able to share about your small group, insights from your small group?
Josh and I found out that we both put things off, the things that you don't want to do for whatever reason, or just can't, find in your mind that you, so, and that's can also be residue in a way, because if you put it off, it's now in your mind, right? So we talked about that. We talked about a number of things that were already just shared. Um, uh, I told him a technique that I learned. Um, what else? Josh, I'm turning
Ooh,
into you now. I
that
didn't
that
take
technique
notes.
the technique was really good though that Leanne gave me because when we were talking about different coping mechanisms that we've learned, like really learning to not react, but wait to respond and using breathing exercises or stuff like that. But Leanne said in a breathing exercise, especially in a tense moment, like inhale breath, but exhale patience.
Yeah,
And I thought
yeah,
that was a good thought process to digest on. And then we also talked about active listening. That active
yeah,
listening is a real, acquired trait and tool
yeah,
that is so beneficial, especially in community work, but just in relationships in general. if I'm always working to respond in a conversation, I'm not actively listening to someone.
Yeah.
Then that's going to close that door and create tension instead of that safe space. So I thought that was good as well.
And can I offer one small thing too about the active listening? Thank you for sharing. If you slow down the listening, you can actually pay attention to the impact. And
Hmm.
so part of not carrying residue is to notice what is impacting you and how you feel about it. And the pacing makes a difference in your digestion. So slowing it down is like, oh, that impacted me. But when you're going so quickly, you often don't notice then it hits you at the end of the day, or when you're in the middle of the night and you wake up at 3 o'clock in the morning because you picked up something that you weren't really fully conscious about. So thanks for sharing. One more person, anybody else? And then we'll keep moving. Okay. Going.
Okay, I'll go ahead and speak for our group. I
Thank
was
you.
waiting for Amber or it, I keep saying Morris, but Miranda I think is the first name. Um, but we actually talked about what made us feel safe, supported, and grounded. We discussed no, not resource, and what helped us have connection and belonging. And if I can recall, what we had some techniques shared, um, and we also talked about where we're from, our communities, and where we find support, and whether we have fa- um, faith or spirituality or no faith at all.
Hmm.
Just who we are at the core and what we find safe.
Love it. So hopefully you had a chance to also connect with each other. So um, we thought sharing information in groups would be a great way of sort of expanding options when you think about how to stay resourced, how to stay aware, how to stay connected. I'm going to offer a few more suggestions, but before we do that, because you guys have been maybe sedentary and in front of the computer, I do want you to take like a minute or two stretch break. Just get yourself up and maybe move around, grab some water, stay hydrated, and then we're going to come back for part two of the workshop. And again, I'll put the PowerPoint back up and cover a few more points, but have a stretch break. And I think Lyric has figured out how to play our music. So don't we have like break music? Oh, play that first song.
Okay.
Thank you. Great. So what I want, yeah, I'm glad you guys got up and moved yourselves around. It makes such a difference. So what we're going to do now is in your notebook, in your workbook, there is a body scan. So I want you to just take a second and kind of, maybe look at the body scan from top to bottom and to think about where you carry in your body like the residue of the day. So you've had a long day or you've been in meetings. Where do you notice in your body you feel and carry stress or worry? And then I want you to kind of think about that body part and do some releasing. So if it's your feet, like squinch and release. If it's your tummy, kind of rub on it. If it's in your shoulders, sort of move them. But like get the where you carry your worries, sort of give that a little bit more attention by doing some intentional loving on it. Yeah, and moving it. Perfect. And you're going to get my PowerPoint, but I'm also going to lead us through one more somatic activity. And we're going to practice wringing ourselves out. So you're working on releasing, and so let's do wringing. So we always start with breath. So in through the nose, hold, deep exhale. One more, in through the nose, hold for a second, and deep exhale. And now I want you to give yourself a hug. Take your arms and fold them across yourself. Really get used to that feeling of giving yourself a nice deep hug. And now I want you to give yourself a squeeze. So squeeze your arms. You might want to go all the way up to the top of your shoulders. Deep squeezing. Yep. Keep going for about 30 seconds. And if that feels good and you like the way that that squeezing works, again, you can go all the way up into your shoulders. You might also want to go to your lap, those nice large muscles that are sitting there that could use some love and attention, and generally squeeze. Imagine squeezing out that residue of the day. Yep. Now take another breath. And I want you to do some ringing. So this is actually pretty physical. So I want you to turn your body to the left or the right, but you want to turn all the way around. And you want to breathe. And then turn your body to the other side. And take another breath. We're going to do that 2 more times. Turn and breathe. Turn and breathe. Turn and breathe. One more. And now come back to center. Notice what you feel. Take another deep breath. And then I want you to shake it all out. You might be your head, your shoulders. Just let it go. Might just be your hands. But shake it all out. Imagine shaking all of that residue off your body, letting it all go. Take one more deep breath. And start to come back, bring yourself back slowly and orient yourself. So look around to something that feels safe and remind yourself that you are here and safe. And in your body. And when you're ready, come back and join us, knowing that you are here and in control now. All right. Tell me if you notice anything, having kind of moved your body and tried to move any stressors. Did anyone notice anything?
Okay, so I recently, within the last couple weeks, I have accepted the reality that the fascia, which is that membrane that goes throughout our entire body and covers everything, is extremely responsive to our emotions. So the greatest effect on our fascia, I have learned for me, is my emotions.
Mhm.
So while I have been getting treatments for advanced chronic arthritis, I can get massages, I can get chiropractic treatments, I can get acupuncture, I can all that stuff. But if I don't relax and breathe and enable the fascia to settle down, none of those other treatments will be effective.
Yeah.
So just taking the time to do the body scan, to send my breath in my body to the part that is causing me discomfort or pain, and just focusing my breath on that part of my body. It's not a permanent solution, but it does enable my fascia to release enough that I truly can feel less pain. So the body scan, in addition to the ringing, which like a washcloth or dish towel or whatever, it absorbs all these things, but every once in a while you have to really twist it and just cause all of that residue, as you use that word, to just be released. And that's what the breathing and twisting does for me.
Thank you. Thank you for sharing. Thank you. All right. Anybody else want to share? Thank you. But that's so, yeah, all of these somatic stuff. Okay. I'm looking, looking, looking. Can't see anyone else wants to go. And you can also put comments in the chat too. If you're like, I don't want to speak up, feel free to use the chat.
I just realized I was a lot more stiff than I thought I was. And that was good awareness to, especially some of the areas where tension was that needed to be loosened up. So that was good.
Hmm. So, again, imagine every day how your body, if you're not attending to it, kind of ends up carrying this. And so, day after day, if you're not attending to your body, it can really catch up with you. So let's see if I can. Promise you I wasn't gonna overuse the PowerPoint, but I did want you to know that the ringing activity is in the PowerPoint, so you can have that. I was going to do this in a small group, but I think it probably is because of our size, we can do this as a whole group. So because my PowerPoint, I just want to say, I'm going to put this up here and I want you to start to think about, well, before we do that, I'm going to talk about things that help you weather, and then I'm going to go back to the small group activity. So as you all shared, having an understanding of trauma and trauma responses is essential to help you weather. So having an awareness of the fact that trauma affects your body, having an awareness that it affects your nervous system, having an awareness of what drains you and that you have been drained, having awareness of what your patterns of your traps are and what other people around you, their traps are and understanding that those are responses to stress and adversity. They're not just bad people doing bad behavior. It really does help when you have that awareness. Engaging in daily intentional resiliency building practices. I love nature. I love journaling. I love gratitude practices. All of those are important. And as Clintina Miss Sims said, if we're not also, if we're not doing breath work every single day, multiple times a day, sort of to regulate our nervous system, grounding, so that five senses activity, doing a body scan throughout the day. Like if you look at your calendar and you know that there are meetings that are kind of stressful, doing a body scan, having movement and nourishment and rest as a part of not something that you do just during the weekend, but as a constant everyday practice. And we can talk about the challenges of that. And then also, I don't think that we think enough about this, but our nervous systems are designed to be in community, and connection reminds us that we're not alone. And for many people, the trauma response says when you're under a lot of stress that it's better to isolate or not connect. And that's when our nervous systems need people more and more. So working together, connecting together, helps. We need buffers and bridges, and people and community really do make a difference. I want to add some unique practices, not necessarily super unique, but I want to just highlight a few unique practices, and then we're going to have a larger conversation. So, one of those trauma awareness things are residue check-ins. So, imagine throughout the day, and then please, if there are questions or comments, add them as I go because we want to have a whole harvesting. But imagine throughout the day pausing and asking yourself, what am I carrying right now? What do I notice? What am I holding on to? But doing that with a pause and a breath. I've mentioned the body mapping as a daily practice. In the morning, taking a break to see how you're waking up and landing. So before you get out of bed and start your day and grab your phone and start the to-do list, think about where is stress, what are you feeling, and then maybe doing some intentional movement to get it moved. And then before you go to bed, doing some body mapping. And then daily nervous system awareness. So paying attention to the signs that your body is not feeling well or it's carrying stress. And again, that's the one. If you're doing the residue check-in, you're probably going to be able to do the nervous system awareness. And if you're finding like I just am staying numb, or I don't feel anything, or I don't check my nervous system because I feel too much, then a couple different practices are recommended. One, we're going to talk about the resiliency things, and you can try those. And if those don't work, then it might be useful sometimes to work with a trauma specific therapist. Not every therapist will be useful because this isn't like talk therapy that you'll need. You'll need things that are trauma specific. So to be thinking about that. So the resiliency practices are where you go to when your nervous system is constantly going. And so we talked about wringing out the residue. We've done some shaking. There's other somatic practices. Think about micro restorative moments. So small practices of self-compassion and love that you do throughout the day. I am sure that there are days where hopefully none of you, but where you haven't had enough water or you haven't had food that felt nourishing and enjoyable and pleasurable. So you didn't eat mindfully or you didn't walk mindfully, but those small restorative practices where you say, in this moment, I am fully present. I am fully safe. I am fully grounded, and I am loving on myself, and I am caring for myself. Right. So those micro restorative moments, notice not as something that's a retreat, but that's like throughout the day as much as you can. We did it a couple of times during the session, but orienting yourself to safety. So the nervous system loves to be hyperactive, and especially for those of us who've experienced complex trauma or chronic trauma. So we're looking, it's wired for danger. And in the car, on your way, walking down a hallway, reminding yourself, I am safe. I am safe in my body. I am safe now. And that might sound like a little like hokey, but the more you can remind yourself, remind your body, remind your nervous system that it does not have to be hypervigilant in every single situation, the more you create new neural pathways that help your body learn that it doesn't have to be on go all the time. So covered some cognitive stuff, some breath stuff. Movement is regulation. So stretching, shaking, walking, dancing. I love reminding people who are like, I don't have time to exercise. I don't have time to do stuff. That maybe things like deciding that every 45 minutes, so if you're sitting for 45, that you're going to get up and walk for 10. And or that you're going to make sure that when you come home and you're cooking dinner, you've got music on and you're giving yourself a good dance, which also will bring some joy. But not you won't think your way out of stress. It's not like you're going to problem solve and analyze and ruminate out of stress. When you find yourself, one of my practices that I teach people I work with is set up yourself like a worry timeline. So you got 10 minutes to worry, and then you're going to get up and move. You're going to do something. You're going to stretch. You're going to get it out your body. And those kind of practices kind of help fortify you and keep you resilient. And then think about intentional, resilient practices. One of the things that my mom taught me, she was a social worker and then she was a teacher for a long time, and I have adhered to this, is to make sure that there's a break between like work and home. So she used to say like things like making sure you take off the clothes from work and make sure that you move from your work clothes to your home clothes, or make sure that in the car ride home that there is music that helps you transition. So, or maybe it's silence that you use going from work to home, but having a break that makes work bounded or caregiving bounded. Or and I know if you're caregiving 24/7, it may feel like there's no room for making it bounded, but thinking about, okay, so this is my caregiving time and this is my self time. And any practice, anything that you ritualize, will help create the division in your body. Like, oh, this is my self-care time. Maybe it's a long shower. So just be thinking about or a bath, or those, remember, intentional, transitional ritual practices that kind of love on yourself and nourish yourself. So the last thing that I want to offer, that I think, again, I mentioned that we miss, is our unity practices. So thinking about where you can gather or create for yourself healing circles. We really love it. If we were thinking about this, like triads, places like peer circles, places where you reconnect. So like even after here, imagine that you decide, I love the fact that there were two people from the same organization that came. I think maybe Nicole, maybe someone else that you work with, but committing to like talking through these practices, talking through resiliency, talking through care. Not only is it accountability, but it also creates opportunities for co-regulation. Coming together and having collective care agreements. So maybe if you work with people that you love and care, but you also want to like go out and socialize, maybe there's an agreement that we don't talk about work during social time, or that we limit, or maybe during work we have a opportunity. One of the best practices that is recommended is that we build in structures that allow for some venting and some leaking, but also make that bounding so that you're not leaking everywhere all the time. And thinking about co-regulation can't stress that enough. And if you don't have anybody that you can co-regulate with, really be looking in community. There are, meetups and Bumble BFF and those kind of opportunities. Look for places where people gather and try to connect with them in safe, connected spaces. And if you think about your life and you're like, well, I got my family, that's my community, but you don't have friends or other sources of support, maybe reevaluate that because there could be a benefit from being a part of a community that feels caring and that is broader and deeper than family. And then last but not least, but thinking about your organization and your practices that exist in families, because sometimes family is a place that you connect, but it isn't a place that heals or supports or resources you. So definitely, we believe strongly in a trauma-informed world and communities that there are pockets of peers that connect and love and support each other because we are not meant to be doing life alone. That's, kind of how we are designed. And so healing happens in our bodies and our relationships and our communities and our systems. So before I'm going to take down the PowerPoint, but I do want us to talk for a second about what, first of all, I covered a lot of stuff, I know, but I do want you to share, and we were going to initially do small groups, but we think we can share here. Um, what has resonated with you and what new insights and awarenesses are you gaining? And probably most importantly, what challenges and barriers are you noticing right now? And then we have, and again, you can use the chat, but we'd love it if you could share.
Um, I I think what I've learned the most is like consistency, consistency at being in touch with ourselves,
Yeah.
um, and and making that a daily practice, make that kind of like that top priority for your day. That um, it's it's not checking out, it's checking in, and
Hmm.
we can be better at whatever it is we need to do that day by
Yeah.
paying attention to us, ourselves.
Yeah. And what are you noticing that you still need?
Me?
Uh-huh.
Oh,
Yeah, yeah, yeah. That's
oh,
that's a little
um,
bit, yeah.
yeah. I'm not sure. You know, I have a really good support system. I have a group. We have a group that our secular women's group has a stitch and bitch every month for 2 hours where we
Oh,
craft and we complain, and then we come up with some solutions. And it is I look forward to it every month.
I
And
love it.
but then we also have women's dinners where we don't talk about any of that. When we're at dinner, it's all about everything but what we talk about on Saturday. So that
Okay, so we
community,
we we
yeah.
probably need to do some replication. As that sounds wonderful.
I have a question. I was trying to type it in the chat, but the chat wasn't working for me. My question is, I think I have heard you refer to co-regulating.
Yeah.
What is that?
Okay, so co-regulation is it's a weird kind of concept, but it's happening all the time. So my nervous system and your nervous system are always speaking to each other. And if I am dysregulated, you will feel me being dysregulated. I don't have to say anything. So the way that I typically describe it is if you've ever, and I know if you've held a baby and you were a little nervous and a little tense and the baby, right, cries more, can't calm down. Because if you're tense and you're trying to hold a baby that's tense, you're creating tension. So we know that you will set the baby's respiration, digestion, heart rate by your heart rate. And we do that with babies. So if you're calm and soothe and well regulated, the baby can stay calm and soothe, well regulated. Well, we do that with each other as human beings all the time. So if you walk into a room, if you've ever been like in a room, you guys were talking, you were talking to someone, it felt good, and then all of a sudden the energy shifted. And you're like, what was that? Well, it's probably because somebody's nervous system was in a different place and they changed the energy of the room. So you pick up energy all the time. And in a healthy environment, I have people who can help me stay calm, who can be calm and cool and good for me, and their breathing and their slowness and their intentionality will slow down my nervous system and increase my capacity to be regulated. Isn't that cool? So co-regulation, and we're doing it all the time. So someone can make you go up and they can also make you go down. And what we want you to do is to find communities and be with people where you can just co-regulate. So just be calm and good, that make you feel safe, and that your nervous system doesn't have to be in fight or flight. Can I offer one more thing? Because I know that there are people working with individuals impacted by intimate partner violence. And I was working with someone last night. And so imagine if I've been if I grew up, if I've been in relationships that are violent and unpredictable, or I grew up with maybe a parent who was an alcoholic, my nervous system learns to be like on guard. And I use the metaphor like and then I learn to adapt. And so it's like having a lion in your living room. And people who grow up have like intimate partner violence, again, they've got the lion in the living room and they're telling the lion to like get off the couch. So they learn, right, adaptive to say like, hey, lion, do you think? And then they're like watching like their tone of voice and they're watching their body language because they're trying not to get the lion to like bite them, right? And so imagine dealing with the lion in your living room every day and the impact of that on your nervous system. So we want you to have places where eventually, again, we want the lion out of your house, but we also want places and spaces where you're not always having to accommodate the lion. So maybe you can walk down the hallway and someone is there, or you can find safety there, or that you can find breathing room, or that you can exhale, and that you're not constantly doing the dance of being around the predator. The other advantage of community care is that ideally someone would notice that there's a lion in your living room, and then they would maybe distract the lion, help you get the lion out, right? And that community care provides that network of support that might give you space to really sort of be safe and get your nervous system safe. So co-regulation is so essential. And you can imagine in some neighborhoods and communities, you never really maybe get that safe space because everybody's on guard. Sorry, I went longer than I wanted to, but I just think co-regulation is so important. That was a great question.
So I just wanted to say that in my time, like working, doing anti-gun violence work and at-risk youth mentoring, especially when I worked for Tri as a peacekeeper, Karen, you offered that space to me. You really trained me to practice making sure at least once a week, especially during the summer when the violence was at its peak, and working with families, trying to refer them to resources and to additional help, trying to be that mediator between them and the violence at some points, that you guys really trained me and taught me how to co-regulate. And you, even yourself at times, would be that person that would allow me to vent but would also capsize it to so it doesn't grow into its own thing, but teaching me how to process and then move on from it. Like not to stay in that place, but you would be that calm energy, let me vent that stuff off, and then give me practical steps how to work through it and resolve situations when the tensions would get high. So that's something that even my former boss, Miss Patricia Avery, used to do that same thing, just maybe not as trauma informed, but just knowing that that type of work needs a safe space to vent out of and then learning how to process and work through it was something that I've been able to apply to other areas of my life. And I think some of the new information that was presented today that really helped me is like shifting that when you're not maybe as in an intense profession as peacekeeping or violence interrupter. Maybe you're just at a normal day work, changing your clothes when you get home, listening to certain type of music that takes that weight off, or like you said, on a real stressful day, like just silence. But taking that period of time to debrief and de-escalate, but then once you're gone from it, it's gone and you move on from it. And that weight being lifted is so empowering. And when you don't do that, you can see like this how you start to carry it and it needs to be taken off of you. So
Thank you. Thank you. Anybody else want to share? You're not in this alone. Any other sharing? Sort of what's been standing out for you? What are you noticing? And what do you need still?
I just thought, relevant to what we've been talking about, I'd throw out a tip or a trick that we started talking about in our group this week that just really helped all of us when we were thinking about our traps. And it's something that I'm trying to do myself, but having a jar with things that make you calm down. Like all the things that I do when I'm stressed out, I have a little jar with them. And that way, when I'm in that moment, I'm overwhelmed and I'm stressed out, I can just pull from the jar, pull out a technique, something that will help me calm down. And it also like prevents that decision paralysis, which is why I think it was something we thought was so helpful, because then you're not sitting there spending 10 minutes debating, what should I do? Was this productive? Is this a good use of my time? But you just have that jar, you pull your thing, you do it, whatever it is, probably a 5-minute task, you put it back, and then the next time you can try something different. It's just something we're all trying to do in my group, and I think it's something that could be really helpful for other people, especially people with decision paralysis like I tend to have, especially when I'm overwhelmed and in chronic stress and things just feel existential.
Love it. Thank you. Thank you. That's a great idea. And then maybe even in community, you guys could come up with a bunch of different strategies because remember, one of the functions of chronic stress and residue is to create mental fog. It creates mental fogginess. And so having some tools that are ready at the ready make all the difference. Anybody else? Would love to hear from maybe one more person. Any sharing and noticing?
I'll go. Can you hear me?
Yes, thank you.
Um, so I learned I need to breathe every day. Just stop and breathe. I don't do that enough. Um, and then um, the what was the other question?
It was sort of like, yeah, what did you notice? What did you learn? And what do you still need?
Sorry, hang on. I'm on my phone and it just fell on the floor.
Oh, doesn't that stuff happen all the time?
Um,
Technology.
I'm sorry.
No, like the question is like, what do you still need in your toolbox? Anything that you still need?
Um, just to slow down.
Okay. So, And that seems like a permission slip to slow down. So that would kind of go
Yeah.
in your jar, in your calming jar. Like, I love it.
Yeah.
Okay. Last but
Thank
not
you.
love it. Thank you. Thank you. Anybody else? And then I have one final question for everybody. And we'd love for you to share the last question, but I'm gonna, again, anybody else want to share their reflections about what resonated, any awareness that about yourself, and what do you still need?
I also just want to say thank you. It's been really helpful to go through and take the time to focus in on things. I feel like for me, a part of what happens when things are really stressful is that I just speed up and forget to slow down. And I feel like I've been in a bunch of different situations this week that like the universe is continuing to like tell me that like, hey, you need to slow down, right? You remember that that's what's really helpful.
Yeah.
Um, and so it was definitely a reminder to do that. I also, the imagery of the wringing out of your body, um, really hit today.
Mm,
So thank you for that. And then the reminder of in the unity section, right, that sometimes when you're tired, right, you want to just isolate and, right, sort of shut down. And maybe that looking at that differently, and that's the moment when you actually need that connection and you need to reconnect to community. Um, so those were the things that really resonated with me today. So
oh,
thank you.
thank you. Thank you. Yeah, yeah, yeah. I think when I learned that isolation was a trauma response, it was like, whoa, right? It was sort of light bulbs went off. Because I would always be like, I'm an introvert. I don't need people. All right. So my last question, and this is for everybody. This is the last sort of thought question for today is what is, if you think about anything that you learned today, what is one small action that you can take or that you're willing to take to support your growth and well-being? So, what's one small step that you're willing to take? And you might want to jot it in your little workbook, your exercise workbook. And you also might, yeah, so you want to think about that. And then for us, and you don't have to share this publicly, but we want to know if there are any ways that we can continue to support you in the journey. So, and when you think about what would be useful and helpful as you kind of try to put the stuff in work. So, like, what's one small step that you're going to take on this journey, and what can we do, if anything, to support you? And we would love, again, either in the chat or uh, publicly share your commitments because there's some magic in the public sharing, believe it or not.
Yeah, I'll get it started.
Okay.
I really liked what you said about movement is regulation. Like being sedentary for 45 minutes or so, especially during stressful times, getting active, especially at the end of your day, trying or after you get off work, taking a brisk walk or during work, getting that movement going, allowing your mind to start moving and getting free out of that confined space. I've seen in the past where that helps so much, and I've been a little stagnant on that. So I really took that movement as regulation quote to heart.
I love it. Okay. Anybody else going to share their micro win?
I liked Clintina's talking about relaxing our fascia so that everything else can work,
Mhm.
and just that consistent breathing. And if I might for just a second, when you talked about a toolbox, I think we need to remind others that they need to have one because some people don't have a toolbox. And that's all I could think about. Like, what if you don't have a toolbox?
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
and just like the importance of it is um, because then you have the fascia, you have the movement and everything else that, the clenching of the muscles. Um, so yeah.
Yeah. And so it's also good to have a good peer to help you create and give you ideas for your toolbox too. Love it.
Yeah, community.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Thank you. Anybody else?
Uh, I'll
Oh,
share if
okay.
unless somebody else is gonna go. Okay. And I'm sorry, you guys, I didn't have my camera on. I have my pajamas on. It
It's
was my
okay.
day to relax, self-care day. But okay, so I learned a lot today. Thank you so much for sharing all the great tools. So what I'm gonna do, you know what, this is like really confirming that I'm listening. I was driving home listening to music. I was listening to Frankie Beverly and Mays, and he was singing about the golden hour of the day. And I'm like, what is that? So
Yeah.
then I researched what does that mean? And it was like the first hour after sunrise and
Mhm.
the hour before sunset.
Yeah.
And I said, that's when I can walk. That's because it was like that's the most peaceful
Hmm.
time of the day. So I had committed myself to my golden hour walks in the morning and in the evening. And then my husband, because I need more movement, my husband was he told me to set my timer throughout my day every like 2 hours or hour and a half, set my timer on my phone and get up and walk and listen to music and then come back to my workspace because that would bring more movement in my day as
Mhm.
well.
Yeah.
So those are some of the things that I have been thinking about, but this was actually confirmation for me to really get that started.
I love it.
So thanks everyone for sharing.
Thank you. And I see Leanna's gonna make sure she rings herself out regularly. And um, we've got, I think it's Miranda. Or did I get that wrong? Miranda. Yep, yep, yep. Said she's going to just take time off from her duties, mom business X, and take a day to do nothing. Really sort of to reset and she's going to commit to putting the phone down and doing less
Yeah,
scrolling, spending time with her son, taking him to the park and being outside. I love it.
great. Yeah. I will build on what I wrote in the chat just quickly because I'm one of the oldest people here. Um, I have interpreted when I have aches, often in my back right now because I'm planting, as something physical. So, you think you can deal with that, put on Bengay, whatever. Um, but this was reinforcing to me how much of it could be, because of my fascia, it could be psychosomatic. And it's difficult as one ages to figure out why you're aching there because I ache in most every place to some degree. This is a really good opportunity for everybody younger than me to find out that's where you're holding your stress now, and so you do those things. But that's why I put ringing down because I think that'll help me immensely.
Yeah. And the body checking in with your body will help you
Mhm.
be aware of where you're holding and
Right.
what might start to become hyperreactive. So thank you.
Yeah.
I have two things. When you asked the question, what else do we still need? What else are we still going to do? And this, I would like to thank the entire group, those that I can see and those whose pajamas I can't see and I'd like to see. But to Lyric and to Karen, and especially to the group. One of the things that I'm